Hey, Shalom Israel. Bless y'all. Been a minute since I made a video, but just found some stuff that I just wanted to share, just something on my heart, something that's really been helping me as of late. Pastor tells us a lot of times, in fact, all the time, as young men, when you're young, work your ass off so that you don't have to do it when you're old. So I've just been trying to be productive and steady myself to do that. But something I found that has helped me to keep focused, because cares of life can come in and stuff like that. It's just something I found to stay focused on the book, on the faith, on the way, and on the true mission at hand. Uh, so I'm gonna read a couple scriptures and stuff, and then I rarely ever look at it, but I found a couple commentaries that are excellent to describe what I'm talking about. So I'm just going through a couple verses. Main thrust of this is just encouragement to keep pressing on in the way. So if you go to Ecclesiastes 11, starting at verse 9, it says, "Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that for all these things Yah will bring thee into judgment. Therefore remove sorrow from thy heart, and put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity." Going to chapter 12, verse 1. "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain." And it goes on. A lot of us know it finishes in Ecclesiastes 12, 13 to 14. "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yah and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Uh, I'm reading out of King James, but this Hebrew Greek Key Study Bible, you see mine's falling apart, but this guy, let's see what the focus is. Zodiates, Spiro Zodiates, did a great job in what he said and quoted and expounding on Ecclesiastes 12:13. Says, in the printed Hebrew text, verse 13 begins with an enlarged Hebrew character, no doubt emphasizing the importance of this statement. The preacher has taken us on a journey through all types of doubts and fears which man may encounter during a lifetime. His theme has been that all the things which now seem so important are utterly empty in the final analysis. In conclusion, here is the remedy for all the despondency that comes from observing human misery, the real answer to which will remove all the perplexities. Fear Yah and keep his commandments. Man has no other responsibility than this. A person does not want to be found before Yah in judgment, weighed down with the excess baggage of so many things which he thought were so important in life, but which will be utterly empty, worthless, and futile when he had but one responsibility. And I do my best to keep this in mind. Y'all know how it is. Cares of life come rushing in, trying to steal your peace, trying to steal your time and your attention. And at times, if we're not careful, we can let it. And I know I've been guilty of that in the past. So I've really been trying to arm my mind with the scripture and with good word to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then I'm sober when I catch it when it's trying to creep in. So the next verse I wanted to go to is Luke chapter 21, verse 34 and 36. "And take heed to yourself, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged," that's completely taken over, "with surfeiting and drunkenness." And that drunkenness is not just in alcohol, it's just in anything that's in excess in life. "And cares of this life, so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man." And I think when I first heard that verse, Elder Becker had brought it out on Blog Talk, and it's just stuck with me ever since. And the cares of this life, and the thing that really got me about this was the fact that here's the Messiah talking, and obviously he's talking to his disciples, but at the same time, these are the same men that had given up everything in their life, left their jobs, their families, and stuff like that to come and serve him. And yet he's still telling them, don't let the cares of his life drown out what's really and truly important, which means they still have responsibility, still have stuff to take care of. The deacons with the administration of the widows, all the other stuff that the book of Acts talks about that they had to do. They still never let the cares of his life surfeiting and drunkenness catch them unawares. They stay sober and they stay diligent. Um, and again, just encouragement that some of the stuff that I've been studying. Next one, Luke chapter 12, verse 35 through 40. And then the other piece of commentary, the second piece of commentary, is by this gentleman, this scholar. Let me get a finger out the way. Gospel Light by George M. Lamsa. And he also has a Old Testament light that pastors recommended before. A very, very good study material. All right. And then he also has a New Testament light for the rest of the New Testament. So these are excellent study materials that I've found from recommendation from Pastor and some of the old videos he's made about books of study. So a lot of times I'm thinking of those because he has an Eastern perspective and understanding on a lot of these scriptures. He goes back to the Aramaic a lot. So I'm gonna read the verses and then I'm gonna read his commentary on it. It's a little lengthy, but it's been golden for me. So it says, "Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their master, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. And if he shall come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. And this know, that if the goodman of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not suffered his house to be broken through. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when you think not." And as we know, the book has a lot of Hebrew idioms and Eastern idioms that we want to understand in this Greco-Roman Western mindset. So sources like these help us to get in touch with what our ancient people were really talking about. And so George Lamsa says here, "When a master of a house is visiting in the town or on a journey, his servants have to wait for his return and keep watch of the door. Easterners follow no itinerary and they have no timepieces, so punctuality is not known. They have no formalities and time has no meaning to them. A man might be invited to dine at 6 o'clock at the house of his neighbor, but the supper may not start until 10. While the master of the house is away, the women and children have their supper, and after they have eaten, the servants are served. A portion of the food is kept for the master of the house until he returns. While the women and children are asleep, the servants must keep awake and be ready to serve their master when he gets back. Easterners have no regular hours for meals. They eat when they are hungry. At times, the man may be invited to dine at a friend's house, but when he returns, he may be more hungry than when he left. Thus, if the master of the house should find both women and servants asleep and no one to set food before him, he becomes enraged, and in his anger he might discharge the servants and beat the women. It is a disgrace for the master of a house to wait on himself or to be locked out. Some servants are very shrewd. They study their master's movements and calculate when he will probably return. If they think he will be late in returning, they go to sleep, expecting to awake upon his return. Their calculations at times prove misleading, and they sleep so soundly they do not awake when their master returns. To their surprise, they are awakened with kicks. Faithful servants who love their master would never sleep. No matter at what hour their master returned, they would be on the watch. At frequent intervals, they go to the door and look outside to see if he is coming. When he arrives, they immediately rush to take off his shoes and to bring him water and set bread before him. Oriental masters are devoted to such servants. They tell them their secrets, their losses and gains, their happiness and sorrow. They share everything with them, and when in difficulty, seek their advice. Some masters would rather part with their sons than their faithful servants, and there are servants who would give their lives for their master. This parable refers to the sudden coming of Jesus. Just as servants are unable to know when their master will return, so we are unable to tell the time and hour of his coming. We must therefore be alert and keep constant vigilance like the faithful servants who wait for their master's return. When Jesus comes, we will then be ready to greet him and be in his service with joy, rather than being awakened from our sleep with disappointment and regret. So I mean, there's a lot of meat there. For those of you who might have this book, you can just go to where he's talking about Luke chapter 12, but the specific page is page 274. Um, so I read Ecclesiastes 11, 9 to 12, 1 and 2, and then Luke 21, 34 through 36, and then Luke 12, 35 through 40. Um, it's just been real encouragement for me just to keep that in mind, that a servant who truly loves his master would never sleep. And of course, that sleep nowadays is that spiritual slumber, where we get eased in Zion, where we think that we're okay after we've been working and pressing in the vineyard for a little bit. Um, Satan tries to tempt us, or our own flesh tries to tempt us. That's okay. We can ease up. We ain't got to do all that stuff. We don't have to do that much stuff, to just try to get lax. It's a very subtle way for these wicked spirits to try to deceive us, so that when the king does come, we will be caught unawares, and unfortunately would have to be thrust out into outer darkness, where there'd be weeping and gnashing of teeth. But I'm striving myself to stay humble and to keep this in mind, so that I don't end up like one of those that would be thrust out. So I hope that helps somebody. Hope that encourages anybody who might need to hear that. I know it's definitely an encouragement to me. I've been reading and highlighting the mess out of that just because it's just so good. I keep reading it, and it's just 100% true. A true servant would never sleep. And in the context of a servant waiting on their master, a true servant would never sleep. He would be ready constantly. And therein is obviously what Pastor teaches us, is that this book's true motivation is love. It's the greatest love story ever, cover to cover. Christianity taught hellfire and brimstone and get your fire insurance and all that bull crap, but this motivation and this purpose is love. The Father loved us so much to give us so many bountiful blessings in terms of salvation and deliverance and healing and everything else He's come to give us a good life about. And the least He asks us to do is to be obedient and be watchful for Him. So that just helps me to keep in an Eastern mindset, to understand some of the parables Jesus talked about, and particularly this one about the blessed servants who are watching constantly for the Master's return. So bless all you. Bless you, Israel. Love y'all.